Alright, welcome back to the Richard O'Reilly Show. Today is Monday, June 26th, 2017. I'm just back from about a week off. I've been very busy the past week, but now we're back. We're gonna we're back right now. We're gonna get right back into talking about some serious issues going on, and it's all gonna be a great time. It's all gonna be fantastic. It's all gonna be very, very amazing in every single way. It's gonna be perfectly tremendous. So I have a couple of things to go through here. Between Russia and CNN, there's a big CNN scandal going on, which is hilarious. And healthcare, let's see, we got that. We got Bernie Sanders and his wife, their little investigation going on. So we got a whole bunch of things going on. So let's just go ahead. Let's not even waste any time. Let's just get right on into it. So, let's start. So, Politico magazine has a little article talking about Representative Adam Kinzinger, a Republican, so-called Republican, from Illinois. It says here, why Representative Adam Kinzinger is raising holy hell over Russia. And it says here, for 70 years, a fundamental precept of the Republican Party has been a deep skepticism, if not outright hostility, toward Russia. I love the spin and I love the framing here. It says, oh, Republicans have been hostile to Russia in the past. Why not now? You want to know why? They're not hostile like they've been for the past 70 years. You want to know why that is? Because for the past 70 years, back then, the Cold War was happening, and now it's not. Whoa. I know it's hard for you guys to grasp it. I know it's hard for Democrats to sort of grasp it, that, no, the Cold War is definitely over. But trust me, it is. Believe me, it really is. And I know it's hard for you establishment Republicans to grasp it as well, but trust me, the Cold War is definitely over. It's definitely stopped. Trust me. This is how they're gonna go ahead and frame the whole article right now. They're gonna say, "Oh man, the party has changed their tone so much, so radically." Yeah, you know why? Because they were not at war anymore. The Cold War is over. That's why the tone has changed over the past 70 years. I hate to tell you. What are you talking about? That's like saying, oh my god, can you believe that the president is being so openly warm with Germany, even though we were at war with Germany 100 years ago? The war's over. So what are you trying to say? See, in their mind, even though the Cold War ended, we're in like a second Cold War. That's like their new mindset. Like, oh yeah, no, the Cold War did end, but we're in a second Cold War now. Sorry, no, we're not. We're not in a new Cold War. Shut up. If we're gonna get into a new Cold War, it's gonna be your fault. First of all, it's gonna be your fault for talking about Russia and not shutting up about Russia 24/7 nonstop. So if we get into a second Cold War, it's gonna be your fault. So don't go ahead and say, "Oh my God, Russian aggression." It's gonna be your fault. It's gonna be your fault. You're gonna be the aggressors. So don't try and spin it like, "Oh my God, Russian aggression, Russian hacking." No, it's you, because Russian hacking, no proof. Russian interference, Russian meddling, no proof. So it's your fault for making up all these narratives. It's your fault. So if we get into Cold War II, it's your fault. But we're not right now, thank God. And if we get into it, it's going to be their fault. I mean, it's people like Adam Kinzinger that are going to bring us into Cold War II, whatever you want to call it. Because he's just so like, first of all, he's from Illinois, right? That should automatically set off some alarms, right? Because we have a Republican from a blue state. Usually, when you have a Republican from a blue state, they're pretty much just a Democrat. Like, honestly, pretty much just a Democrat. Even from purple states, like Florida, where you have, like, Marco Rubio, and for some reason Arizona, where you have John McCain. I mean, they're not Republicans. Like, they're the only ones. I mean, John McCain is like the only one pushing this whole Russia thing. I mean, at least he's the only one putting on a big show about it. I mean, every Republican senator is just so weak-willed, weak-minded. They're so weak that they just go along with Russia no matter what. They don't care. But John McCain is one of the few ones that actually put up a bit of a show, and they're really flashy about it. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna go after the president in this very strange way, where I really just, like, where he said that leadership was better under Obama than under Trump, and then he like took it back in like a really awkward way, like, oh no, I was joking. Like, how is that a joke though? Like, you literally just said, oh yeah, American leadership was better under Obama. Like, I guess it could be a joke, but because you're so old and out of touch, it just doesn't come off like that, because you don't really know how to like connect and how to like speak naturally. Because look, here's the thing, John McCain comes from an era of politics where being tough on Russia was the big thing, and being scripted and artificial was the big thing as well. I mean, let's be honest, John McCain has not been able to adapt to the new age at all. He doesn't know how to like naturally speak. I mean, you saw it during the testimonies. He doesn't really know how to like talk in like a natural sort of normal way. Like, that's the new thing now. People talk in like a natural way. People are sick of like the teleprompters and all the scripts and the speeches and all the the phony personas. And people are sick of Russia hawking, right? Whatever you want to call it, man. People are sick of it. It's over. Cold War's over. It's time to get over Russia. It's time to get over election hacking, which has been an investigation that's been going on for 2 years, and they haven't presented a shred of evidence. So at this point, the investigation is a sham. I'm not going to believe anything that comes out of it, because at this point, it's just an embarrassment to like the entire country. I mean, honestly, I feel really bad for the people in the intelligence community who are actually like hardworking and actually are trying to do good for the people and trying to keep the country safe and everything, that are trying to do their jobs. I feel bad for them, because these Russia hawks are giving them a bad name. These Russia hawks are embarrassing the intelligence community. I mean, they really are. Because how are you gonna have an investigation into something so blatant and so it's like such a bold claim? Like, oh my God, they hacked the election, they hacked the local elections, they hacked the French election. Like, they did all these things. How is it that they can do these bold actions and you don't even have any sort of evidence? You didn't even know about it. See, like, they claim like, oh, we knew about it for years and years. Then how come you didn't talk about it until after the election? And then they say, oh, because we didn't want to get involved. We didn't want to interfere with the election by talking about it. But isn't the whole point, like, you're trying to defend the election? Like, surely you wouldn't care if you came off as partisan, if you were actually trying to defend, like, an election. But no, you waited until after, and then you said, oh my God, there was an attack on our election that we knew about for 2 years already. So you knew about it, but you just didn't do anything about it. So now you're saying that it's time to act after the fact that it happened, even though you knew about it for years before. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Their whole arguments are completely, there's no sense being made anywhere, to be honest with you. So let's get into like what he's actually doing, this guy. In the article, it says here, now, after biting their collective tongues during the opening months of Donald Trump's presidency, congressional Republicans face an actual legislative test of whether their loyalty to their leader outweighs their fealty to their philosophy. Their philosophy? The Republican philosophy of being hawkish on Russia. Is that the new thing now? Excuse me. Is that the new thing now, being hawkish on Russia? Is that like the Republican... I love how they say, oh, it's the Republican philosophy. Like, this is an issue to, like, everyone. Like if you went and voted and, like, gave an interview to, like, your average Joe, like, standard Republican voter, like, your base, the base and their voters, if you were to ask, like, you know, your old neighbor Joe, who votes Republican, like, oh yeah, why do you vote Republican? What's he gonna say? Is he gonna say, oh yeah, because I'm really worried about Russia, you know, that's why I vote Republican. Because if I don't vote Republican, then Russia's gonna take us over, you know, they're gonna invade and hack our elections. Literally nobody is going to ever say that. Literally, I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. Literally, no one. No one is ever going to say, oh, I vote Republican because of Russia. Because I'm so worried about Russia. I think about it all the time. Nobody thinks about Russia all the time. No, except for, of course, establishment media people and politicians. They think about Russia all the time. It's the only thing they think about. The only thing. But normal people have actual things to think about, like, you know, their job and their family and how they're going to afford food and healthcare and education. Think about those things. You know, they don't have time to sit around thinking about Russia all day. Like, of course, you know, like CNN does. And, like, all of these news organizations, like the New York Times and, like, Washington Post. By the way, did you see New York Times is making you pay to read their articles now online? So the New York Times is going bankrupt. Literally nobody's going to do that, by the way. I mean, Washington Post did it too. Washington Post and New York Times, they both make you pay now to read their articles online. Literally nobody is going to do that. Literally no one. You can get your news from so many sources. New York Times, you're not special. I'm not going to pay to read your articles, okay? Sorry. Not going to happen. Anyway. It says here about the Republicans that are opposing their leader and standing up for their philosophy, their so-called philosophy. It says here, leading the forces for the latter is Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who says in a new interview for the Global Politico that he is prepared to wage a rebellion and raise holy hell in the face of new efforts by the White House and its allies to water down a bill enshrining into law tough sanctions on Vladimir Putin's government. The measure, which passed overwhelmingly in the Senate, ran into trouble last week as Trump's allies raised procedural roadblocks and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson complained the bill unduly tied the administration's hands. Now, Tillerson's argument there just makes sense. It makes total sense because here's the thing. I mean, we're supposed to be we're trying to warm up, and we're trying to make friends with Russia, because why should we be enemies? There's no point. It's just a pointless thing that the establishment wants. Like, we're not gonna, like, no one wants war with Russia. It's not gonna, sorry, no one wants it. And Rex Tillerson is saying, look, if you do this, if you pass these sanctions, it's gonna be so hard for us to actually, you know, make friends and improve relations like we should be doing, because it makes sense to improve relations, but for some reason the Senate doesn't want us to. They don't want us to. So let's see what Kinzinger actually has to say here. He says, there will be some holy hell from some of us that would be very upset about this, says Kinzinger, an up-and-coming member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who's emerged as a rare voice inside the GOP willing to publicly critique the president of his own party on foreign policy. I want to stop right there, because here's the thing. This is hilarious. A rare voice willing to critique the president on his foreign policy. You want to call this guy a rare voice? Guys, the Republican Party is so out of touch on foreign policy that Donald Trump comes in and is actually sensible in a lot of areas that they go after him ruthlessly. I hate this whole media narrative that, oh my god, here we have a rare voice talking, going against their own president, standing up to their president. Oh, how brave, how rebellious. As if it's not like what every single congressman Republican is doing. Literally all of them. They all have something to say, whether it be foreign policy, whether it be about his temperament and his tone and his Twitter and his Russia. You know, they do that. Like, they're a bunch of crybabies, you know what I mean? They're like crybabies. They always go after him for these things, these like stupid things that don't even make a difference to like anybody. Like it's not a rare voice. Shut up. A rare voice. A rare voice standing up to the president. He's not rare. You have John McCain and, Marco Rubio. I mean, sure, they work together sometimes. Marco Rubio and Donald Trump on the Cuba thing. But most of the time, Marco Rubio is just a total Russia hawk who is so out of touch with his base. So out of touch. I mean, I can guarantee you, if voters knew last year that they were voting for people who were going to be doing nothing but pushing for, but going after Russia, spending all of their time doing that in Congress, none of them would have won elections. None of them. If Republicans campaigned on Russia last year, none of them would have won. But they didn't, though. They had to campaign on actual issues because they know that, people don't buy. No one buys this whole Russia thing except for like maybe half of Democrats. I mean, most of them are sensible enough to know that, no, Russia isn't our greatest enemy of all time. Sorry, I'm not buying it. So most of them know that, but about half of them don't, because they believe, mainstream media and all of their lies. So, if they campaigned on that last year, they would have all lost in a landslide, because no one's going to vote for that. No one's going to vote for that, and that's why I think that next year is going to be particularly scary, because now we have Republicans in Congress who have pretty much nothing to be proud of. I mean, what have they done since they've been voted in? What have they done? Talk about Russia all the time? Make some healthcare bills that aren't even really that good? I mean, what have they done? So what are they going to campaign on? Are they going to go out there and say, "Oh, we've been so tough on Russia, haven't we? Vote for us." Literally, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna vote for you based on that. So they're so stupid. They don't know how to do anything. They're so out of touch. They think this is like an issue that people actually care about. They think this is like a big issue. It's a big issue in your Washington bubble. It's not an issue to anybody else. So let me continue. It says here, a particularly ardent Russia hawk in a party that was until recently filled with them. It's still filled with them, at least in the establishment level. Kinzinger has taken to tweeting with the hashtag Russia is not our ally, in what seems to be a direct challenge to the Twitter-loving president. He says in the interview, "I think you will see a House that is very, very eager to make sure this thing passes." I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that the House will be very, very eager to make sure this passes. I can only hope that the president, steps in and stops it at some point, because we can't. This just you're putting your stupid hawkishness in the way of actual policies that make sense, because making friends and improving relations with Russia just makes sense. That's just what we should do. But you're putting your stupid establishment, whatever the hell it is, whatever your thing with Russia is, you're putting that in the way. You're getting in the way of actual policies that'll actually improve the situation. Because I don't even know what it is. I mean, either you're just weak, or you have some kind of agenda, you just really hate Russia for some reason, or most likely you're so old and out of touch that you think that the Cold War is still going on. That's how it seems with a lot of these people. So I really hope that something gives. And it says here, this is something that's very interesting to me. It's very interesting. It says, "It all reflects just how much the politics of Russia have changed in recent months. A dramatic shift such that far more Democrats than Republicans today call Russia the greatest danger to the U.S., the largest partisan gap ever recorded on this question by the Pew Research Center." That right there is where I want to end it, because that just goes to show how much of a mess this whole thing is, and how much Republicans in Congress are betraying their base by going after this whole Russia thing. It's the greatest partisan gap ever. Ever. I looked at the numbers. It was about 40% of Democrats and about 20% of Republicans. You're going to go after Russia when only 20% of your base wants you to, and only 40% of the other side's base wants you to? No, so literally no one. Literally no one on either side. It's not even a majority on the Democrat side. Nobody wants these Russia sanctions. Nobody wants you to be hawkish on Russia. It's just you. It's just you. So I'm so sick of these people in Congress, and Adam Kinzinger, and John McCain, and Marco Rubio, and Lindsey Graham. I hate them all. They're all so useless when it comes to actually, being in touch, when it comes to actually being smart, and when it comes to being loyal to their base, because their base doesn't want them to go after Russia, but they do it anyway, because they're out of touch, and they're stuck in like the 1980s, and I'm just sick of it. Oh my god. So I'm going to go ahead and move into healthcare. Now, the Senate has passed. They haven't passed, excuse me. The Senate has come up with a healthcare bill that's not final at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and not even waste any time. So let's just go ahead, get right into healthcare. So, The Hill has an article here, and it says that McConnell allies are confident in a healthcare win. It says Republicans close to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell are confident he can save the Senate's teetering healthcare reform bill, the Better Care Reconciliation Act, over the next 5 days, though it is shaping up to be a daunting task. The Majority Leader and his closest allies believe he can wear down rebels in his conference after 20 hours of floor debate and an unlimited amendment process, which will give colleagues a chance to hammer out a compromise. So, this bill, I don't want to get into it too much. You know why? Because it's not final. I hate how people are all debating this. Okay. I take it back. It's fine that people are debating it. I get it. And I like that. But why should we sit here and go after them for a bill that's not even settled yet? Because he said unlimited amendments, an unlimited amendment process, and 20 hours of floor debate. So this bill's going to go through the whole process. There was this whole thing about last week that when I wasn't on, that I wanted to talk about so much because it was just so stupid, right? Because you had Democrats going after Republicans, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe they're being so secretive about their healthcare bill." Democrats, you want to know why they were being secretive? Because the bill wasn't ready. The bill wasn't ready. And it's still not ready. It still has to go through debate and amendments and all that. So it's still not ready. They were going after them so hard, like, oh my god, unbelievable. They're going to try and push this through without debate. They're going to try and push it through without anyone ever getting to see what's inside. And then, that didn't happen though, because the reason that it wasn't being shown was that, it wasn't ready. It was still being drafted. Just a thought. I mean, look, I get the argument that we need transparency. But what's the point of telling everyone about all of your drafts? The whole process. What we care about is the final draft, what we got out of it. We don't care about, the process. Oh, well then he said that we should add this, and then the other guy said that, no, we should add this. We don't care. We just care about the bill itself, what came out of the process. We don't care about the process itself. And look, I get what you're trying to say. I get it. You're trying to say, oh, well, we need to know what's going to be in the bill. Okay, but now you do know. It's out there. You can see it. So and it still isn't finished. And look, if you want to say, hey, the bill's not good, I would agree with you. But I would also say it's not good because it's brand new and it hasn't gone through debate and amendments and any of that. There needs to be, I mean, it's gonna change, guys. I mean, calm down. You have people on the left freaking out over this bill. I mean, you saw, like, the protests going on. By the way, I mean, I love how they're still doing their protests. As if their protests are effective. Like, I don't understand what their goal is with the protests, because, like, everyone sees their protests and they think, wow, what a bunch of whiny bitches. Like, no one looks at, 500-pound strong woman Ladasha screaming about Russia and shit like that, and no one says, wow, you know what, I was a conservative, but you know what, I've changed my mind. I'm gonna go ahead. You know what, you've made me reconsider. Or does anyone who's driving to work on the highway, or anyone who's in an ambulance trying to get their life saved, getting blocked on the highway, are any of them gonna say, wow, I was a conservative, but then I saw this line of people screaming to me about my privilege on my way to work in the morning, and you know what, I've changed my mind now, I'm gonna reconsider. Like, what are they trying to accomplish? Because it just makes them look bad, honestly. And look it, I'm not gonna say, I mean, you have the right to protest, but I can question you and say, hey, look, if you're gonna go ahead and protest, like, what are you protesting? What are you trying to accomplish? Because, like, no one actually looks at you and thinks, man, oh, look at these strong, independent, look at these strong liberals. I was gonna vote Republican, but now I'm gonna reconsider because I see these strong liberals screaming at me about my privileges and about my what is it? What did I say? My phobias and my isms. You know what? I changed my mind. Like, no one, like, they protest and they're just so whiny, and like no one, like, who are they trying to please? Are they trying to please, like, themselves? It seems like they're trying to please themselves. Like, they're trying to take like a moral stand, even though no one's listening. I mean, no one. And you have these embarrassing protests. I mean, between lying in the street and having like these little fake tombstones. Really? And then also the funniest thing is that during that protest where they had the tombstones and they were lying in the street, they had police protection. And then some guy was riding a motorcycle, and he tried to get through the whole, crowd of people, and he almost got tased, and he got taken down by 7 officers. What kind of country is it where we have protection for these people who are lying in the street, who are blocking people on the way to work and on the way to, no one knows what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to, maybe they're going to get some food. Maybe they're going to go. Maybe they're, who knows? Maybe they're trying to meet some family or some friends. Maybe they're starving and they're looking to go buy some food, and you're blocking them because your whiny check your privilege is way more important than their, right to travel. And then you have police protecting them. What is that? What is that? So I can go outside. I can make like some cheesy sign that says, "Oh my God, check your privileges," and I can just stand in the street, and I can just block I can shut down the entire city, because hey, it's my right to protest. You can't drive. Yeah, I can stand here in the road and block all of you, and then police will protect me. Since when has that ever been a thing? And then they also had a little protest outside of what was it, Mitch McConnell's office, where they had like these. By the way, they had these people in wheelchairs. I love how you're using the disabled to push your agenda. How classy is that? And how much you want to bet they weren't even disabled? I mean, how much you want to bet that they just showed up in a wheelchair just because, like, you know, they wanted to, like, seem like, oh my god, you can't push us, we're in wheelchairs. And they got carried out. And then there was this whole outrage, like, oh my god, how dare you carry them out? Like, well, what do you want them to do? I mean, they were being carried pretty peacefully. I mean, they were just picked up and carried out. What do you want them to, like, shove them? What do you want them to leave them there? Like, you can't, like, it's his office. They can't just stay there. But they think that this is, like, their moral superiority, like, they're just out of touch. And they're protesting a bill that's not even done yet. That's not even, like, anywhere near done. There's still so much left to go within the process. Anyway. Excuse me. It says here in the article, right? A GOP aide familiar with internal discussions said the Senate Republicans are going full steam ahead in anticipation of a vote later in the week. So they're looking to have a vote later in the week. And you know what? I wouldn't agree with that. Now look, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, oh, we're pushing it through, we're going fast, because what they're trying to do, because the process has been slow for months, right? First of all, I mean, the reason why it's been slow is because they're wasting all the time talking about Russia, all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. The reason why it's so slow is because you guys are out there, giving a Comey testification, and what is it? All the intelligence leaders and Jeff Sessions, and talking about, oh, Russia sanctions. How embarrassing is it that they were able to come up with and pass Russia sanctions in like a week, but healthcare, it's taken them months. This is not normal. Look, it's a long process, and I understand that, but the progress has been so slow because they've been wasting their time. But anyway, I still say that having a vote this week would be a mistake. I feel like it's just too early on. I feel like you ought to go through the whole process, have the president get involved, because he obviously knows what he's doing better than you guys do. I mean, he's the one who said that the House bill was mean, and I mean, he's right. I mean, it's a mean bill, but it's something at least, right? That's the reason why it was passed, because hey, it's something. But senators don't seem to really know that, so hopefully the president gets involved and he helps him out and sort of shows him, like, hey, this is how you do like an actual healthcare bill that people like. This is how you do it. Think about it. I mean, if they pass something that's better than Obamacare, and then you're gonna have Democrats like protesting, think of how pathetic they're gonna look. I mean, they already look pathetic. Don't get me wrong. They look pathetic as it is, but they look even more pathetic because you're out here protesting a better bill than what we had before, and they're gonna do it. We already know that no matter what passes, they're gonna protest, right? Even if it was like universal healthcare, they would protest, because at this point it's just Trump, like, oh, it's universal. It's like we want universal healthcare, but Trump passed it, so we're gonna protest. Like they would literally do that. I mean, I can almost guarantee you that. But anyway, it says here that the Senate Republican Policy Committee Chairman John Barrasso, a member of McConnell's leadership team, on Sunday said that leaders have enough flexibility with legislation to address the concerns of colleagues who last week said they cannot support it. So you had a lot of people in the party saying that we can't support this bill. And, okay, look, basically the whole thing is a bit of a mess, right? Because you have moderates, and then you have so-called far-right wingers, right? So-called, like Ted Cruz, because he's really out there, right? Ted Cruz and all these Rand Paul, these Tea Partiers, these Freedom Caucus people, they're just like, here's the thing. They think they're populist, but they're not. They would have been if the year was like 1982, but they're not anymore because people have changed. Like the needs of the country have changed. So they're stuck in the past, and they think that they're like, oh, we're like the populist wing of the party. No, you're like the moderate wing, but you're like more. You're like the moderate wing, but you're like bombastic about it. Like you have like a bit more charisma. And you're not like John McCain, who can't even speak. But you know, like you're really not a populist wing. A populist wing would be the Trump wing. But they don't care about the Trump wing, right? They don't care. We don't have any senators or congressmen who are like openly part of the Trump wing. Just think of if the party was enthusiastic about the president and about Trump. It would be so much easier for them to win because the base loves him. Why are you so skeptical and so timid when the base loves this guy? It just doesn't, because they listen to, here's the reason why. They listen to these polls as if polls mean anything anymore. Polls mean nothing anymore. Let's be honest, polls are useless. Pollsters have no credibility anymore. After the election, where they got it so wrong. They got it so wrong. They said, oh yeah, Hillary, 400 electoral votes to like Trump with like -5, and then he won over 300. So polls are completely discredited, right? The polls have no credibility anymore. So they listen to polls where it says, oh, Donald Trump has a -20 approval rating, and they say, oh my God, we need to distance ourselves, and we need to be strong, and we need to say, oh, we will stand up to the president. That's not being strong. It's being weak. It's giving in to the demands of the media and the Democrats. It's giving in to the demands. That's not being strong. Oh yeah, we're being so strong. Give me a break. Strong? That's not being strong. So anyway, in terms of the healthcare bill, like I said, let's just wait for the process to take place. And then when it's done, we can say whatever we want, and we can scrutinize it, and we can go ahead and we can say how horrible or how great it is. I hope that it turns out to be great, but we'll have to wait and see. Well, I want to touch over this one. It's one thing that I found about Bernie Sanders and his wife Jane Sanders, and about the probe going on into them. I'm gonna take too much time, but it's very interesting to me. So let's go ahead. Let's get right into it. So, Fox News is reporting that Bernie Sanders and his wife Jane have hired lawyers amid an FBI probe on their loan applications. So, it says Senator Bernie Sanders and his wife have hired defense attorneys amid an FBI investigation or probe into a loan the senator's wife procured for Burlington College while she was school's president, according to news reports. Sanders, a Vermont independent, and wife Jane hired a legal team in connection to a 2010 loan application that Jane Sanders reportedly filed so the school could borrow $10 million to purchase 33 acres of land, as reported first by Politico. So, I'm going to be a bit nicer than a lot of people are, because a lot of people are saying, oh, look at this, Bernie Sanders is obviously a fraud, right? I'm going to be a little bit nicer, because I've always said, I'm going to stand by it, I've always said innocent until proven guilty. So there hasn't been any proof of guilt, but it wouldn't be surprising if he was guilty. Because Bernie Sanders, this is the guy who, after the campaign, the primary campaign, he kept on asking for donations. After the campaign, he kept on asking for donations. And even after, I believe even after he endorsed Hillary, he kept on asking for donations to his campaign. The campaign was over. and he kept on trying to get donations. So this guy, I mean, this guy is such a. He says that he's like a. Oh, I'm one of you guys. I'm an outsider. He's been a senator for decades. He's been in politics since like the 70s. This guy is not an outsider. And then he says, "Oh, I'm middle class. I'm like you guys." The guy owns like multiple houses, expensive houses, beach houses. It's like all an act. And then during the campaign, it was so embarrassing how he tried to like make himself seem like he was middle class, because he would like ride the subway and take the bus. Come on, that's so embarrassing. And then his supporters say like, "Oh man, this is our guy Bernie. He's above, he's above all of the petty politics of personality." This guy's all about personality. He rides the bus and takes the subway to make himself seem like he's middle class, even though he owns multiple mansions. And he says he's an outsider. He's been in politics for decades. I mean, it's like such an act. Like, the guy's a fraud, but his supporters, they can't see it because they're mesmerized by, what he says and what he says he supports. And some of it's okay. I mean, look it. I'm not totally anti Bernie Sanders, right? But I just think he's a fraud. I mean, he has some policy ideas that I agree with, but that's because they're the ones that are more populist, and those are the ones that Trump also says that he agrees with. But I feel like he probably does have some genuine beliefs, but I feel like in total, I mean, just in general, he's just a fraud, because I mean, he lies about his wealth. He lies about his his time and his experience as a politician. So I would not be surprised if he would actually commit fraud like this. And same with Jill Stein. Remember Jill Stein? How after the election, she was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do a recount. We're gonna do a recount, so I need all of the Jill Stein supporters in the world to donate to my website, JillStein.com." She did that for the recount, which was completely there was nothing. Nothing came out of the recount, and everyone knew that. Like, everyone knew from the beginning, like she's gonna do the recount, and she hyped it up so much. She was like, "Oh, this is it, guys. We're gonna restore faith in our democracy. We're gonna make sure that democracy is safe with this recount." So she raised all that money, and then she did the recount, and then nothing changed. The recount amounted to nothing, and she just kept the money. She just kept the money. I mean, she's a total fraud, and so is Bernie Sanders. I mean, these people, people get so mesmerized by their speeches and their policies that they completely forget that hey, they just want your money, and then they go on and say, "Oh, I'm against greed. Now be sure to donate all of your money to me." There were people on Reddit. This is a hilarious story that I found on Reddit, who were these Bernie Sanders supporters, and they donated every single penny to Bernie Sanders. They couldn't afford to eat and pay the bills and pay rent, but they would send all of their money to Bernie Sanders. That's funny, but it's also sad. I mean, it's sad that people actually do that, because I don't want to see them suffer. I want to see them actually afford food. But you're gonna go on and complain that you can't afford food, and you're gonna donate all your money to Bernie Sanders. You're gonna donate all your money to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he never really had a chance. I mean, look at. And I see the argument that hey, he's a populist and he's gonna get he has a lot of appeal. I get that, but you're going up against Hillary Clinton. Hillary in a Democratic primary. I mean, your average Democratic voter is not a far left progressive like they make him seem. And most of them don't even care about politics. They just think that, like, oh yeah, Hillary, I know her. She's, Bill Clinton's wife, and she was a senator and mayor, so, yeah, Hillary. Like, Hillary, and so Bernie didn't really have a chance. Like, he got a pretty large amount of the vote. Congrats to him. He did a good job. But Hillary Clinton, who's like a celebrity, and who the entire party wanted, the entire establishment, the entire party establishment wanted her. It was pretty much hopeless. It really kind of was. At least on the Republican side, you had Donald Trump versus like there was no Hillary Clinton on the Republican side. You can think about it, like, when it comes to like who's the legacy name, you had Jeb Bush, and Jeb Bush was never gonna win. Jeb Bush has no charisma. He has nothing. Jeb Bush is nothing. He's literally. I don't want to make fun of him too much because like he seems like a bit of a, I guess, kind of a good guy, even though he has no energy and he has no strength. But he had nothing, and then you had like Marco Rubio, who was like the establishment's like fallback choice. That he was like the new generation of the party, and then he wasn't because he was pro amnesty. Come on. Then you had Ted Cruz, who was like straight out of the 1980s. Then you had like who else? Like John Kasich, who nobody knew, who didn't really like have like his message. John Kasich was just so awkward too. Like, he had no charisma. Like, he went from like trying to be like, oh, I'm the voice of reason, to, oh, I'm gonna be fiery and I'm gonna be tough on Trump, and then he became like the Messiah. He went around like hugging people, and like and then he started to like eat things, and then he dropped out. So John Kasich was never really an option. So, but yeah, what I was trying to say is that Bernie Sanders is a fraud. And by the way, you know what else is hilarious? Jane Sanders was president of a liberal arts college. Jane Sanders was the president of a liberal arts college. How predictable is that? Of all colleges, right? This could have been any college in the world. She was in charge of a liberal arts college. That's the kind of person who's gonna marry Bernie Sanders. That's the kind of person who's gonna marry Bernie Sanders, of all people. Come on. That was just hilarious to me. Let's be honest. Bernie Sanders was the liberal arts candidate. He really was. People on the left say that Bernie Sanders is, he's such a refreshing. He's so anti-establishment, even though he was, a senator for decades, and he's not like all those crazy college kids. He's the liberal arts candidate. His wife runs a liberal arts college. And all the liberal arts kids loved Bernie Sanders too. Let's be honest. It was all college kids. Like, I don't know anyone over the age of like 30 who was gonna vote for Bernie Sanders. Let's be honest. Even like Democrats, hardcore Democrats, like, they was all college kids. Like, it was no appeal to anybody else. So I'm gonna let the investigation go. I'm not gonna try and say that Bernie's guilty yet. I'm gonna wait for the investigation to go on. I'm gonna wait for evidence to come out. But until then, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say, you know what, Bernie? I'll give you a chance. So, one thing I want to get to at the end here. I want to get to this one last thing. So, there's a scandal going down at CNN, and it's very interesting. And I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's been inevitable, but let's get into it right now. So, Breitbart is now reporting that the very fake news scandal is consuming CNN as Jeff Zucker, network Flack, refused to comment on Russia's retraction to its own network. So, for those who don't know, basically what happened, you had CNN, they put out a story, and they said that there were some Trump officials who were being investigated for having Russian financial ties. It just seemed like the standard CNN hit piece, right? It seems very standard, but apparently it was so fake that even CNN had to retract the story and put out a public apology. But now, there is a whole bunch of chaos going on at the network, because apparently, basically, they're being very secretive about what they're going to do moving forward about their Russia coverage. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, CNN, they were going to get caught eventually, because this was the same network that pushed out the dossier from the campaign. They said, oh, we have an intelligence dossier on Trump and Russia. And you know what it was? It was a Hillary campaign talking point memo. And it was made by a guy who was apparently so dumb that he had basic grammatical and geographical errors in the so-called dossier. And the dossier was so ridiculous that not even Hillary Clinton spoke about it. I mean, Hillary came out there and she said, oh, Trump is a Putin puppet, he's a Russian agent, and he's alt-right, and, the 4chan and Pepe are going to take over the world. And even she wouldn't even say, the dossier, like, oh yeah, there was a PP tape. Trump was caught getting peed on by Russian hookers on camera, and Putin has the video. Even she wouldn't say that. But CNN, they did. CNN said it. CNN, they put out the story. And it was that was like the fakest thing they've ever done. And now they were caught with this hit piece, and there's a big backlash. So, let's get into the article now. So it says here. Excuse me. It says here, the scandal surrounding CNN's mishandling of a very fake news hit piece on President Donald Trump and his associates grew bigger on Sunday night as the network's president, Jeff Zucker, and PR team and the public relations team is refusing to comment to anyone, even to CNN media reporter Brian Stelter, about what happened. So this is now pretty serious, that you have the president and the PR team refusing to even tell their own people about what their plan is going forward. So there were reports that they were going to be more careful with their how they handle the Russia story and anything regarding Russia. But now, as it turns out, that we don't really know what they're going to do, because Jeff Zucker is being very quiet. That's sketchy. That's very suspicious. So it says here, Stelter, in his Sunday evening newsletter named for the television program he hosts Reliable Sources, credited a Breitbart News investigation with forcing what he admitted is an embarrassing retraction for his employer, CNN. So, Stelter is saying that this is an embarrassing moment for CNN, and he's trying to get a comment from his boss and his PR team, and they're totally silent. That's odd, okay. I mean, it's very strange. I don't really know what's going on, but who knows. It says here that losing Stelter as a public defender for now is a huge moral loss for the network, as this scandal grows bigger and casts a wider net internally. his voice joins others, like Breitbart News and BuzzFeed News, very shocking, in calling CNN's public PR team to answer to questions about the matter. As more in the media become aware of the scandal and get involved in covering it as well, especially now that the weekend is over and it's not getting any better, insiders at CNN worry that this is spiraling out of control quickly. So this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're trying to figure out. By the way, Breitbart and BuzzFeed seems like an unlikely duo. But this just goes to show how serious it is. Because even BuzzFeed is a pretty, really left-wing, not even really like a news outlet. Like, they want to be a news outlet, but they also publish, like, quizzes and YouTube videos about people drinking, like, cocktails and stuff like that. So they want to be news, but they're not really. But even BuzzFeed, who was, like, so far left, even BuzzFeed is saying, like, yeah, you know what, we're going to look into this because it's actually kind of, like, suspicious. So BuzzFeed and Breitbart, that is a strange combination. The dynamic duo, the unlikely duo of BuzzFeed and Breitbart are now looking into CNN. And they thought that it would be over by the weekend. The weekend is over, and it's still going on. So it's getting more and more serious by the day. It also says here that others in the media, including ex-CNN anchors and reporters like Howie Kurtz and Ed Henry, both of them are now at Fox News, have criticized CNN for Acosta's and Stelter's and others over-the-top reactions to the White House decision. Spicer himself, in an interview with Kurtz, said that Acosta's silly games are sad. But I'm not really sure what they're speaking of, but it does seem that there's a whole lot of internal drama going on at BuzzFeed, and Acosta, by the way, is the one who got called very fake news by Donald Trump at the press conference a while ago. So we just have a whole bunch of infighting, and it's just, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going in the article, and then we'll get to my take. So, this crisis represents one of the biggest the network has ever faced. Late last week, it was forced to retract the very fake news hit piece it ran on President Trump and his associates, Anthony Scaramucci and Steven Schwartzman. I'm not sure, I think that's how you pronounce it. Oh, gotta pop up. The piece inaccurately alleged that Scaramucci, I believe that's how you say it, I apologize if I'm wrong, and Schwartzman were under investigation by the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Treasury Department for supposed ties to what is actually a completely normal Russian investment fund. It turns out that not only is the Senate Intelligence Committee not investigating the matter, as Breitbart News discovered from sources close to the Senate GOP leadership, but the Treasury Department looked into the matter and determined that unfounded allegations that originated with far left-wing Senator Elizabeth Warren to be without merit. So, what's going on here? So, CNN reported that these two people were being investigated by the Senate Intel Committee and the Treasury Department for having a Russian fund. But it turns out that it's actually a completely normal fund, not a corrupt, no corrupt dealings with Russia are taking place. It's completely normal. And the Senate Intel Committee is not even investigating it, so that was totally just a lie. And the Treasury Department looked into it, but they determined that the allegations were without merit, and they actually came from Elizabeth Warren, of all people. So here we have a big scandal. People are now accusing Warren and CNN of sort of colluding to put this story on their network. People are saying that Warren basically pressured CNN to report on this because she was the one who made the claims. By the way, how hilarious. People on the left, they say, oh, Elizabeth Warren is so progressive and she doesn't get involved in all these petty issues like all the other Democrats do. Here she is pushing fake news about Russia on CNN. So totally embarrassing. By the way, I mean, very predictable too. I mean, CNN. It was inevitable that they would be caught pushing fake news one of these days. And now it's happened. And now we have the dynamic duo of BuzzFeed and Breitbart looking into it. So I'm not gonna say too much. I'm gonna stop right now because I just want to look in. I want to let the investigation take place, and I want to let it happen before I say anything further. But just like with Bernie Sanders, if this does turn out to be true, that they are corrupt, I would not be shocked whatsoever. Alright, that is the end. That is what I had to get through today. I am parched. I hate to tell you guys, you know what? I'm so parched right now. But you know what? It's been a good day. It's been a beautiful day. I am so glad to be back. I missed this so much. So, this has been the Richard O'Reilly Show, and I will see you guys tomorrow.